Hello, welcome to yet another installment of Poems That Changed Me. This week I'm going to be talking about a poem that has been on my brain a lot for the past couple of years. It's a poem by a young indigenous American poet named Michael Wasson from the Nez Perce Reservation in Idaho. I was first introduced to this poem by my friend Cindy Furman. She and I co-edited an anthology of Native American poetry called Native Voices. And it's an innovative anthology in that it mixes poems by indigenous American poets, but also craft essays written by them. And when I came across this poem by Michael, it really blew me away. Resonances of Gerard Manley Hopkins, John Donne, but totally his own voice. It's called This Dusk in a Mouth Full of Prayer by Michael Wasson. When you came into my mouth, opened wide enough to forget how to swallow light, this surrendering the body is my skin tracing starved beauty in climax. Us lying in the dark shadow of another. Lord, give me your dying, words like Father or my tongue, disappearing before. So, tell me this. You Welik Ipsik, when you've forgotten how to open your lips into my name, Father, which is another way to say shadow, failed daylight touching the body. You say, the sky, find myself entering a night again, wounded, enough for the snow, shined with moon, to reorder the stars with our faces, broken through with so many American mouths, like ghosts singing to the very last bright word they remember, Amen. Michael does many amazing things here, and one of the things this poem changed for me was the notion of the line break. I've always been obsessed with where to break a line of poem, which is, if you are not super familiar with poetry terminology, it's where a line of poetry ends and then the next line begins. Commonly, many readers think of the end of a line as a kind of grammatical end. They sort of imagine a comma or a semicolon or a colon or even a period. What Michael does here is use the line break to force the reader to make a call on how to read or even interpret the poem. In fact, when I was reading the poem just now, I didn't always know where to place the emphasis. Here's an example. He says, lying in the dark, line break. And if you're looking at this on my website, you can follow, is it that way? That way, the poem here, and see what I'm talking about. Lying in the dark, line break, shadow of another, line break, Lord, give me your dying, line break, words like Father. Another way to read this would be lying in the dark shadow of another, Lord, give me your dying, words like Father or my tongue. Or yet another way would be lying in the dark shadow of another Lord, give me your dying words like Father. Or yet another would be lying, perhaps telling a lie, right? Lying in the dark shadow of another Lord, give me your dying words like Father or my tongue. Similarly, the opening lines can be read in a number of different ways, right? There's an erotic element, when you came into my mouth, or a kind of prayer, right? Asking for the voice of the Lord, the muse even, to come in to your body, to inhabit your body, to inhabit your voice. Toward the end of the poem, Michael sort of moves away from the poem being solely about the body or the erotic body or this kind of prayerful cry, this plea to the muse, to being slyly political. He writes, "To reorder the stars with our faces, broken," line break, "through with so many American mouths, like," line break, "go singing." So the use of American mouths right there, and the capitalized American and then the line break, makes the reader read the concept of America through an indigenous lens. And that gives this poem a very interesting edge and a provocative resonance that makes the poem feel not only contemporary and relevant, but also historical, reaching back into past voices, past mouths. And so maybe the plea at the beginning of the poem isn't necessarily to what we think of as a Christian God or a religious God, but maybe it's a call to an ancestral voice or ancestral voices to help connect the past with the present, to reconcile these competing desires that the poet is feeling. Regardless, this is an unbelievably sonically beautiful poem. Just go back through and read the poem 2 or 3 times in your own voice at your own pace, pausing at different moments depending on the line breaks, and listen to the internal rhymes, the internal sounds. I am certain that this poem will change you as well.